Hi guys, welcome back on my channel English in a Blink, and today we are going to look at prepositions. Yes, prepositions. Don't you all love it? Sorry, I know. Nobody loves them, right? Yeah, I know, because they are confusing. You don't know when to use which, like when to use your in, when to use your into, when to use beside, when to use besides. I know, they are really difficult, confusing, absolute pain. And that's why I've come here today to end that for you. So what do we have to do? Without wasting our time, let's have a look at the presentation. All right, so starting with the difference between in and into. So what's the key difference between in and into? It is that one indicates a state of being, while the other one indicates that is into a motion. And what do we mean by that? And look at the example. For example, into is often used to describe the movement of something from outdoors to indoors. All right, such as like it says in this sentence, so I walked into the room. So when I say I walked into the room, that means it is talking about a movement. By contrast, in is used when a thing or a person is stationary. So I walked into the house, or I walked into the room, and my friend was sitting in the room. Okay, so one, into, it talks about from one place to another. I walked into the house. That means it was like talking about motion. And when I walked into the room, my friend was sitting in the room. All right, so one talks about something which was stationary, and into talks about a motion. All right, so you are in a room, but you walk into the room. Okay, so as in these examples, Jack drove his car into the garage. My friend lives in that house. The teacher came quickly into the room and began the lesson. The dishes are in that cupboard. So you understand, when you have your into, that means teacher came quickly. That means we're talking about motion. She came into the room, of course, walking. So that's about motion. And the dishes are in that cupboard. So again, they are in that cupboard. Again, no motion there because they're dishes anyways. All right. So everybody understands. Okay, moving on to the next one. We have on and onto. So very similar to into and in. So similar to into and in, onto indicates motion where on does not. So the same way like into, it is about motion and in is not. Same way onto indicates motion and on does not. Onto normally indicates that something is placed onto something. So for example, I put the dishes onto the table when I set it. All right, so I was setting my table and then I put the dishes onto the table. On shows that something already rests on a surface. For example, the picture is hanging on the wall, as the one that you can see behind me. All right, so the picture is hanging on the wall and I put the dishes onto the table. All right, so one talks about, so always remember, when you have your into, when you have your onto, it is talking about motion. So I carefully place the picture onto the wall. So when I am placing, not about this one, all right? So let's say I take this off and then I am putting onto the wall, all right? So that's what it is talking about, the motion. But right now, the picture is on the wall. So he put the book onto the desk. You can find the dictionary on the table. So, okay, so let's say this, I am putting this onto the table. All right, and now if I ask, if I go to another, into the room, the next door, all right, and if I ask my daughter, just go get the diary. Now, where is it? It is on the table because I have put it onto the table. All right, so then it will be on the table. Okay, so that's a beautiful picture on the wall. All right, so onto, motion, on, something which is stationary. Okay, among and between. Well, among and between are almost exactly the same in meaning, all right? Both of them pretty much mean the same, but they're slightly different. And what is the difference? So, however, like it says, between is used when something is placed between two objects. And among, on the other hand, is used when something is placed among many objects, all right? So when something is between two objects, we use between. When something talks about a lot of things and among that. So Tom is between Mary and Helen in that picture. You'll find the letter among the papers on the table. So if I ask somebody to get a letter from my table, where is it? Oh, among the papers. So there are lots of papers there, so find that. Seattle is located between Vancouver, Canada, and Portland, Oregon. All right, so located between. And Alice is among friends this weekend. So Alice is among, that means she has lots of friends and she's among them. Okay, so when talk about among, that means lots of things and somebody is or something is between. And then when talk about between, two things. All right, beside and besides. So beside without an S means next to. So Tom is seated beside Alice. That means so Tom is seated next to Alice. In contrast, besides, which is with an S, states that something is in addition to something else. For example, besides math, Peter is getting an A in history. In addition to maths, that means he's getting, he has A in math. In addition to that, he's also getting an A in history, all right? So beside without S, next to. Besides with an S, in addition to something. So hang your coat beside mine. That means next to mine. There is so much work to do besides the normal task in addition to. So I have, my normal task and adding on, I have so much work, like apart from that. Come sit down next to me, beside me. Besides potatoes, we need some milk. So in addition to some milk, we also need potatoes, okay? So beside, next to, and besides with an S, in addition to, okay? So now when you say in the hospital versus at the hospital. So if you are in the hospital, you are receiving medical care from the hospital. That means you are a patient, and I don't want any one of you to be one, all right? So, but when you are in the hospital, that means you are the patient. I don't remember the accident. I just remember waking up in the hospital. So that means you are a patient. My aunt is in the hospital with pneumonia. So again, your aunt is a patient. She's in the hospital. All right. So when in the hospital, that means you are a patient. At the hospital, on the contrary, is you are physically there and probably have been there to see a patient, all right? So if you're at the hospital, you're physically on the premises of the hospital, but not a patient. So maybe you've gone to see somebody. I mean, that's the only reason why you go to the hospital. Either you are a patient yourself or you've gone there to see somebody. So in college, Charlene volunteered at the local hospital. So she was working there. I'm at the hospital visiting my aunt. So in the hospital, you're a patient. At the hospital, you are in that premises, but probably you are just there, to see someone, or you're working there. Okay. On time versus in time. Yeah, this is another one. So on time is the opposite of late. All right. So you're late. If somebody says you're late, and then the opposite, you're on time. That means you're bang on time. So if you're on time, it means you do something before an agreed or established time. That means you're right on time. Okay. So if you pay your rent on time, your apartment complex won't fine you. It's important that we finish this project on time and under budget. Okay, we want to make a good impression on these clients. The best thing about soccer game is that they start on time. If the game is scheduled to start at 7:05, it always starts at exactly 7:05. Okay, so on time, that means exactly, you are bang on time. In time, if you are in time for something, it means you didn't miss your chance to do something, or you're just in time, all right? So that means you're just there, all right? Like you did not miss any opportunity. So you are just in time for dinner, okay? Like just in time for dinner. Have a seat and I'll get you a plate and some silverware. Fortunately, the accident didn't cause any fatalities. The paramedics were able to get the victims to the hospital in time. All right, so you understand what is the difference between on time, when you're bang on time, and in time means that you did not miss your chance to do something. All right, so victims were, they were able to take the victims to the hospital in time. Okay, then when you say shout to or shout at, all right, one is good, the other one is not. So if you shout to someone, you raise your voice so that the person can hear you. All right. So if you're like, hello, are you listening? Can you see me? So that's when you're shouting to. All right. So my friend shouted to me from across the room, but I couldn't hear him over the music. Okay. Sometimes the prisoners shout to inmates in other cells because, they are in different cells and they want to talk to each other and they don't have phones there. So what do? They shout to inmates. Okay. And if you shout at someone, you raise your voice because you are angry with that person. Okay, so that's what you mean by shout at. That means you are angry. I lost my temper and shouted at a telemarketer yesterday. Not a good thing to do though. Don't shout at me. I'm doing the best I can. Okay, so now you understand. You shout to when you're raising your voice so that the other person can hear you. And when you shout at someone, that means you're raising your voice because you're angry. All right, so that brings us to the end of this lesson. I hope you've understood your prepositions and you won't be confused next time you're going to use them. You'll know exactly when to use your beside or besides. All right, until we meet next time, don't forget to like, don't forget to press the bell icon, don't forget to press the subscribe button, guys. And come on, share it with your friends. Bye for now.